there. Basically, just to give the rundown, Destiny is a guy who plays like video games. He's like a streamer. He plays a lot of video games. He also talks about a lot about politics. My introduction to him was basically so there was a time in my life where I decided to go vegan like ages ago, right? I say that like how long ago? Maybe like 3-4 years ago, something like that at this point, right? Devin, I see you have left Herald 3 Extreme Bog Energy. Yes. Also, yeah, it's nice to see me have less deaths as well. I agree. But yeah, basically, when I went vegan ages ago, he had a debate with a guy called Vegan Gains, who's a guy I used to watch. And during that debate, he just presented like an incredibly like logical argument against the thing that I believed in, right? So generally speaking, when it comes to this stuff, I'm not really bothered about what people believe. It's more so like why they believe it, right? And he was kind of like the first person I saw that when I was back in my vegan days, or when I say vegan days, I mean like I was a little bit militant back then. Shh, don't tell anyone, okay? That's a secret meme for you guys and you guys alone, okay? I've chilled out a lot since then. Basically, back then, I was watching a bunch of the like vegan debate kind of like stuff just to find it entertaining or whatever, right? But when Destiny came on, he had like a very logical, structured approach to everything. So that's kind of why my first like, that was like my first exposure to him, and that's kind of why I enjoyed what he did. After that, I watched a lot of his political stuff because he's debated like more alt-righters and those kind of people, more far-right people than anyone else on the internet. It's actually outrageous. Like, if you guys haven't watched him, I genuinely recommend it. I think it's really fucking fun. And what basically, the only reason I'm talking about this is because there's 2 videos he put out lately that almost worry me a bit, I feel like. I don't actually, I'll pop these up real quick. I promise this segment won't be that long. So if you're, this is the end of the stream, there's not going to be any more Dota. So it's up to you guys if you want to stick around for it. But, he put out 2 videos recently, right? That kind of, got me thinking a bit. It was, fuck, where is it? I think, if I remember, it was a conversation with Booksmarts. I'll stay forever for you, baby. Thank you, Breakthrough Game. I appreciate that, okay? Respect. It was this conversation with Booksmarts, and also there was like a 13-minute video where it was kind of memeing, but also kind of being serious. But basically, in these videos, he was talking about, so after debating loads of the alt-right, he ended up debating a bunch of the lefties as well during the whole like Bernie campaign cycle, because a lot of the people that he was previously like allies with or whatever were kind of using a lot of dumb arguments he disagreed with. So he had to like, he went through that whole crowd as well, right? And recently, he's kind of, I feel like his mental state's gotten to a point where he cares less about using logical arguments and all the stuff I kind of got like enjoyed about him in the first place, and has moved more onto like aesthetics or kind of inflammatory statements that he doesn't necessarily like 100% believe in, or they're like purposefully hyperbolic to get a reaction, right, and to entrench other people's ideas about him. But the point that I'm trying to make is that that's kind of been like a bit of a frustrating arc, and something that like I don't know if I entirely can get behind. To be super clear though, like as a big streamer, he's got a lot of pressures, right? So to go through like his history, I guess, like I've already said, he did a lot of political debates back in the day, and sort of like forged the political content on Twitch, right? Other streamers, other lefty streamers, when he was friends with them, got big based off his platform, right? So like people like Hassan Abi, if people don't know him, he's like another political commentator on the left, from the Young Turks, actually, if you guys know that news network, or I don't know if they're a news network or whatever, but like they're just like a group of people. They do stuff on YouTube. They're like media, I guess. But yeah, basically, Hassan Abi got his initial like audience from Destiny to an extent, and then as he kind of got bigger, went more and more against Destiny's views, and it feels like a bit backstabby, I guess. I know Destiny doesn't particularly care about this thing because the way he's always explained that he kind of expects people to fuck him over and that kind of thing. But regardless, as a result of this, and as a result of other communities relentlessly shitting on him for beliefs he doesn't have, he's now started to kind of like be very hyperbolic in his language, have inflammatory takes and stuff like that. So just to be super clear, the only reason I'm even talking about this is because I kind of do feel like I understand his perspective a bit better than the average person. And as some minor proof of this, like about 6 months ago, I remember I was on like a political stream. It was just some chick called Cheshire Cat. She was like a really small streamer. It was around the whole like I think it was when Bernie was still running, right? So it was like during the Dem debates that whole time, right? And basically, we got into a conversation about Destiny for whatever reason. And I remember making a comment like, oh yeah, anyone who'd watched Destiny for ages knows he values thought processes over kind of like the end conclusion of something. Like the way you think about things is more important to him, right? So anyone who knew that about him would probably have seen that the Hassan shit would have gone south way before it did, which is something I genuinely did believe, right? And there was, funnily enough, he actually did see the clip because he gets baited into watching dumb shit by his audience all the time. But he actually saw the clip and then pretty much agreed with what I said. Like it seemed like he agreed with the sentiment. And the other thing that I want to explain, the reason I like him so much, right, is because I kind of relate to him to some extent. I feel like maybe to a small degree, I'm like somewhat similar to him. And to be more clear, like basically I appreciate structured arguments over conclusions. And more importantly, I would say I would consider myself like quite principled, which is something I've always thought of Destiny. So like to see him kind of go into these like inflammatory attacks is a little disappointing from that side, I guess. But that's like the main thing I wanted to say, I guess. Like, yeah, it's just been a bit disappointing to see him go down this route. But do you know what the most disappointing thing is, I think? And for the record, I'm probably not going to stop watching his shit. Also, I don't think he said anything that I straight up disagree with. Everything he said so far has been like this is a take on Twitter he had that got a lot of people really riled up. But I honestly found it quite funny. So if I give an example, it might be a bit clear as to what I'm talking about, right? So like, there's a tweet somewhere here of a dude doing blackface. Yeah. So this guy did blackface and went to a march, right? And then Destiny said, found the lefty. I was showing solidarity, my brothers. So the joke here is that in his experience, a lot of the lefties that preach a lot of that preach a lot about like racism and that kind of thing and standing up for minorities and all that kind of stuff. A lot of them have kind of like almost like used it as like a stepping stone to other stuff and now kind of have like just don't care about it, right? A lot of the lefties have harbored some like racist beliefs and things like that. The best example I can think of is when Pete Buttigieg was running for the Democratic nomination, right? When he was going through all that, there were a bunch of lefties that attacked him over his gayness, which is a homophobic thing to do, and it just feels really fucking weird. So that's what the joke is here, but this is still really inflammatory regardless. So this is the kind of shit people are talking about, right? But basically, the point I'm making is that I don't really have an issue with these kinds of jokes, personally. I don't, like, to an extent, they're on the money based on his experiences, right? But the issue that I have with it is that he's kind of gone ahead and said that he's willing to now undermine his principles to make inflammatory statements. And maybe in the future he'll say things that he doesn't believe in or that don't kind of, like, that don't adhere so much to what he typically preaches, right? They're not as principled, I guess is the core term. But yeah, as I was saying, I guess like the main reason that I think this is disappointing to me is because, for me at least, being principled in the things I say, like I would never come on here and say something I don't genuinely believe. And if I don't know about something, I'll typically tell you guys. Like if we ever get onto like, because I talk politics here occasionally as well, I spoke about like the George Floyd shit, right? If I say something that I'm not sure about, I'm going to tell you I'm not sure about it. I'm rarely going to like, you know, take a position that I don't genuinely believe in. And to be fair, I don't think Destiny's going to do it exactly, but that's like a principle I hold. And I think holding that principle and having the rigid kind of approach to how you work through issues is more important than the conclusions. And if he's openly admitted he's not necessarily willing to do that anymore, I don't know. I think that's a bit disappointing, I guess. I don't know if anyone cares about this rant, but yeah, it's just something I kind of wanted to speak about a bit. But I guess, do you know what the thing that disappoints me most though? Above all else, I know I've said that about 5 times at this point, but whatever. I'm bad at speaking on stuff like this in a non-structured way when I'm not working to a script. But basically, I guess the thing that annoys me the most is that I got the impression from Destiny that he is doing this. He's making this change. He's making his community more of an echo chamber. He's making more inflammatory statements and riling up the people that are actively against him instead of trying to reason with them because other people are doing the same thing, right? They've all kind of clout chased, they've all kind of dropped their principles to some extent to gain an audience and that kind of thing. And that's something that I didn't think Destiny would ever do, I guess, because it just, I don't know, it seems to me that like being principled is, to me anyway, is like fun. That in and of itself is what I find satisfying. And I guess I just kind of thought the same was true of him, but maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. It just feels kind of weird to have a Destiny that isn't 100% preaching his beliefs, I guess. You know? I don't know, it just feels a little weird. I feel like I could have said this better. I don't know if I've said what I'm trying to convey particularly well. But yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say. Yeah, I do understand the commentator dilemma, they call it, where they want to make a change, we get enough publicity, get the word out, the no bad publicity method. But this is the thing though, right? The thing that I liked about Destiny was that he's very honest and personable. So I was under the impression that he would never do something like purposefully being inflammatory, you know, for the purpose of, I guess, just being inflammatory. I don't know what the purpose is. I think it's just like to have fun. I don't think this is necessarily like he thinks it's good optics or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'll say that like he is in a bit of a fucked situation because he's helped loads of people get a platform and then they've all kind of like turned their back and been really like disingenuous and kind of shit all over him. So if I was in that situation, I don't know if I would like take the moral high ground. I'd like to think I would, but there's like no way to know that, right? Yeah, to gain more greater good scenario. Well, if it's just for the sake of it, it gains bad publicity at the very least, which still gets noticed. I don't know. I feel like bad publicity flight is really easy to like get rid of these days. I feel like it's like unless you do something really fucked up, I feel like it's really quite easy to get rid of bad publicity. If you just like stay clean for a bit and just don't give any edgy takes or whatever, you're usually just fine. Like I don't know. I don't feel like bad publicity is that bad these days, so to speak, right? Yeah, people become jaded right quick when in the public eye, depending on the situation. But the thing is, I kind of sympathize because he's been doing, for the record, he's been doing it forever. He's been doing this shit for like 10 years, right? He's been streaming for 10 years and doing politics for like 5. So I sympathize with his situation, I really do. But like I said, it's just disappointing to me because I guess... Okay, here's a little thing about me that I thought was true of Destiny. The reason I do the things I do is because I, like... They are fun to me deep down. There is no, like, I'm never trying to impress anyone. I'm never trying to, like, you know... I'm never trying to do something so that I could, like, fit in as such. That's how it's always been, right? It's how I've always been. I always do the thing that I genuinely believe to be the right thing. And I always thought Destiny was kind of the same because he's acted that way for a long time. The other thing is, I think there's a lot of his audience like that. I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a decent amount of his audience that kind of appreciate his honesty and appreciate how transparent he is on everything. So I don't know, it's just a bit of a shame that he's kind of like, again, he hasn't said or done anything yet that I would personally say is bad, but just the fact that he's willing to undermine his principles for the sake of being inflammatory or for the sake of, like, you know, having an aesthetic as opposed to kind of getting more into the nitty-gritty of the political conversation is a bit disappointing. But yeah, I don't know if that was a clear sentence at all, but I hope it was. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a shame, because like I said, I thought kind of deep down he was always the way he was because that's just, you know, what he finds satisfying or what he believes in, but I don't know, maybe that isn't the case as much as I thought. I'm not saying, to be super clear, I'm not saying he needs to, he has no obligation to anyone to be, like, always super consistent and principled. There's no obligation for that, and, like, you know, if he finds this personally fun, I guess that's fine. But I don't know. It's just a bit disappointing.